Man, I lost 67 grand in this house.
Oh, are you new to real estate investing and you don't want to screw something up? You're in the right place. Today, I'm going to talk with my friend Paul about pad splits and really what not to do and how he screwed this deal up, but also how he saved himself from it. Tune in.
Hey Chris, how you doing?
I'm good, Paul. How are you, buddy?
Better now that this deal's off my plate.
I know you were struggling with that thing pretty good, man.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about, what you've been through with this whole thing. I mean, I know you bought this thing a couple years ago. Was it even a couple years ago?
Yeah, it's been about 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to go into a new market. I'm from the Cleveland, Ohio area, and went down to Charlotte, North Carolina because I love the area and figured I'd make all my business trips by buying a rental down there, right?
It's a beautiful area. Now, how far is it from Cleveland to Charlotte? Is it like 10 hours?
7:45 to 8 hours depending on the day. Yeah.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, this property was north side of Charlotte.
I say a day's drive for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But doable, right? Like you can make that drive.
Yeah, very doable. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, with this, all these trips ended up turning into business trips. We'll start with that.
Didn't get much vacation time in there, huh?
No. So I will say, with these trips and this property, as much as it started off looking okay, made a few mistakes going forward, and this is not only a co-living property, so trying to do a different strategy out of state where I have never invested out of state, but it was also seller carryback, Morby method, whatever you want to call it. I definitely over leveraged this deal.
So it was a creative deal.
A creative deal and a creative strategy for a first out of state property. So right, a couple of things that probably shouldn't be adding up.
Yeah. So a new market you've never been in, an over leveraged property. What could go wrong?
A lot of things, right?
Yeah, I just got rid of one of those headaches myself. That video will be on my YouTube channel at some point in the future, but I just got out of that one yesterday.
Okay, so awesome. We're both fixing some problems. Yeah.
Oh yes. That was a huge headache that I finally had to get rid of.
Yeah. So you want me to jump in a little bit and talk about beginning?
Yeah. So you already said you chose the Charlotte market because you liked it. It was a good spot. You wanted to visit there more, and it was a creative deal. And any creative deal is a lot more enticing because it's creative. If you don't have to go to a bank, at least for me personally, and I'm sure for you as well, if you don't have to deal with a bank, it's just that more appetizing to try to jump into something.
Yeah, and I mean, I had to deal with a bank here because it was a DSCR loan, but I was able to have the seller carry back. And realistically, even to property fully rented, I was about $3,000 in the positive after I got it fully rented. So I technically made money from the beginning. So hey, maybe this isn't going to work out so bad, right?
Right. No, I say $3,000 a month. And is that net or gross?
No, that was like after the seller carryback. So all of my costs involved in rehabbing the property, closing on it, the money I borrowed from the seller carryback to fully rented, I was plus $3,000 going into this property.
So on paper, on the spreadsheet, it looked amazing, right?
Which was crazy because my rehab and what I wanted to do actually did happen. I was right around my numbers.
All right.
That's never happened before, by the way.
No, most of the time when you put it on the spreadsheet, it looks like sheer, gold or platinum. Yeah. And then as soon as you close on it, you might as well just throw that thing away because then life is going to happen. And, we generally try to get close to that, but it's never exactly what we thought we were walking into. But again, that's investing.
Yeah. So like this one was, I mean, I look at so many things that I did wrong. I mean, we're in the same communities and I definitely got over my head and I'm like, hey, take action. We're told to take action, take action, take action. And before I even dig into all this, I am fully taking responsibility. I could have avoided every single one of these mistakes.
all the fingers back at you, right? Fingers and thumbs pointed back. You're not doing this. This was me. Well, that's one right there is the, admitting or the acknowledgement of, oh crap, it's my fault.
Yeah. And really this whole video, we're just going to try to point out some things that I did wrong so that, our audience doesn't do the same thing because there are so many people, especially in our circle, that are trying to do these $0 out of pocket creative strategies. Co-living so hot right now in our market. So these are things that people can easily avoid. I will say going into it, like I was surprised I was able to pull this deal off, and then I find out going into it why I was able to pull it off.
All right, so let's step back and just kind of start from the very beginning. So we said your initial structuring was a seller carryback or a Morby method. For anybody who doesn't know that, that's basically getting a loan on the first 70 to 80%, and then the seller's going to bring the other 20 or 30%.
Yep, and sometimes more, which in this case was more.
Okay, so you built in some extra like renovation cost, right?
Yeah, renovation costs, cover my down payment, rehab, and then still a little extra.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. All right, so we got the structure. And then let's go back to the spreadsheet. So when you ran all of your numbers, how did you, do you have special software? Do you pay for it? Did you create it? How did you, I guess, break your numbers down?
I was way too rosy on my numbers. I did not look at the worst situations, and I could have definitely looked at the room by room rents way closer, because this is a room by room property. Before it was even Padsplit, I was using another platform, but I looked at it fully rented, and I'm like, okay, long-term rentals, I'm 5% vacancy, I'll do 10% here, and I'll still make money. I also missed on so many of the expenses that I was going to have on a co-living property I don't have in my long-term rentals. So
some of those examples, what are the top 3 things that I guess you really overlooked?
So a stupid one, because I manage my own properties in Cleveland, but I didn't put in lawn care, I didn't put in pest control. My repairs budget was way too low. You're thinking this is one that I think a lot of people miss. They buy these larger houses that are, some of them are pretty old, and unlike a long-term rental, a co-living house gets overused. It gets used way more than a long-term rental. And I don't want to be mean, but a lot of these people that are renting these places don't really know how to live in a house. So when things break or they overuse things improperly, flushing wipes or feminine products down the toilet, that kind of stuff, you're not, there's a lot more expenses involved in the repairs month to month.
So like, what are, you said you missed a couple of things from the beginning. So I know we're talking co-living, but for anybody who doesn't know, Padsplit, co-living, long-term rental, if you don't know what those terms are, drop a comment below and we'll be happy to answer them for you. But essentially, it's taking a single family house and converting it more into a working class Airbnb, right? To where you're, if you got a 3-bedroom house, you're going to cut it into like 5 or 6 bedrooms and just rent by the room. Is that pretty accurate?
Exactly. Yeah, and you're the whole goal is to give affordable housing to people in the cities where they're essentially getting pushed out. But these are the working class people that are in the cities that want to stay by where they work, but they can't afford. Like in Charlotte, you're going to be paying $1,400 for a lower end 1-bedroom, 1-bath house or apartment.
That's a lot. And I know Charlotte's been one of like the hottest growing markets for the last, I don't know, 20 years. I went to college there. So I went back like 20 years later and I was like, wow, I don't recognize hardly anything here.
Blew up. Yeah.
All the building that they're doing, I guess, in what they call Center City, all of the sprawl is just pushing further and further out. So like you were saying, a lot of the, hardworking class people, they can't afford a $1,300 a month 1-bedroom place, especially with utilities on top of that. I mean, that's astronomical.
Well, let's hit on that. You just said the utilities. Yeah. So I budgeted for a $700 a month for my utilities. The first summer I was there, I had a $780 electric bill. It's just electric
buckets, dude.
So now that was the worst one, but right after that, I locked out my thermostats. One thing that I think anybody doing this kind of strategy should do. Again, me and my friend Jared put a whole masterclass together on how to do co-living right. He's doing it, I did it. So a lot of these things we're not going to go into deep dive, conversations on, but they're all there on my channel. Don't do what I did.
if you're interested in something like that, drop a comment below, and Paul will put the links to some of those videos in there. He'll just reply back to you.
Yeah. So we have Morby method videos. We have all those co-living videos. There's a lot of things that go wrong with this, but your utilities are one thing, your maintenance, your repairs, all that stuff is going to be so much more expensive. And what people don't realize, this is a job. Like if you were trying to manage this yourself, the amount of time that you get pulled away from whatever else you're doing, this really does become a job for you. So I did try to self-manage this right off the bat. Another one of my mistakes. platforms like Elcove, who I started with, or Padsplit, they are not a management company. They are just a software. They have some support, but you still have to do all the hands-on managing.
Right.
So they're going to take 8%. They're going to take their fee for
straight off
placing.
the top, but then I mean,
Yeah.
you're basically just paying them essentially for advertising, right?
Advertising, and they do have some support. I will say, like, sometimes it gets in the way more than helps, and sometimes it does help. But realistically, you are still managing the property. So I eventually ended up putting a in-house property manager down in there that was in the market. But you know, now I'm up at over 20% of my income going to just managing this property. So it really cuts into the numbers.
Yeah, that's a big hack.
I mean, I'm practically Airbnb-ing at that
does a
point.
lot.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit, and that's just for management.
Just for management, yeah.
So I mean, all in, so if your management's 20%, are you basically working on what, like 70% margins because you got to factor another 10% for everything, or is it even more than that?
So that we're going to go back to that's where I really screwed up here, is because I did not factor in that for management, and I was rosy on my projections. So the first platform I went to was Elcove, and they projected I could get $6,200 a month for a 6-bed. At the time, it was a 6-bed, 5 full baths. So this property screams co-living. It is 5 full bathrooms.
Yeah, that's the metrics sound perfect on something like that.
So projections were $6,200 a month. It took me 2.5 months to rent this thing out fully, but I had to drop my rents all the way down to $4,600. I'm negative cash flow now after all my expenses.
Well, hold on. So you're at 4,600. What were your projections?
62.
Oh wow.
So
yeah, that's a big swing.
But after, you know, going through this and really digging into that platform and starting to do some marketing myself, I realized that it wasn't so much that the rents weren't there. It was that the marketing wasn't there.
Gotcha.
Because I will say the last 3 months, even to selling this property, I was making money again, but you know, being out of state, being out of this market, I needed to focus back where I am at home. This property really just was a mental drain, and we'll get into what I lost on it, but it was time to let it go.
Yeah, that was the property I just got rid of yesterday. Just a brief story on it. It was a subject to under a lease with option. Tenants decided not to perform on the option, bailed 2 months early on the rent, stuck me with all kinds of fun. I had it sold. The buyer backed out the day of closing. Fun stuff. But I finally found a new buyer, got rid of it yesterday. So life is good.
But let's run through some quick numbers on this. I mean, I want people to see the picture, like just rough numbers on what this looked like and why it was actually such a hard deal to get out of. So I bought it for 450 grand. So I overpaid already.
Now, if you bought it for just say market value, what would that be?
Well, I mean, market value, it appraised for that. So realistically, it technically was worth that. It was the fact that I probably should have been paying around the 380 for this for what I got myself into. But 450 grand, I had a $360,000 loan on it from a DSCR lender in first position. My seller carryback was 170 grand. So I'm 530 grand of debt into a property that appraised for 450. Mistake one.
Yeah, it's it's one thing to go a hair above, but that's a big chunk. I mean, you're almost 100 grand over.
Yeah. So mistake number one. Second, this deal had so many issues closing. There were so many like little shady things going on. Like this was wholesaled on market. There was very little disclosures. A lot of things that popped up were things that were hidden, and we were able to prove that they were hidden, just to get the property sold. Which another thing, when you guys are doing a seller carryback or any kind of creative deal like this, even at sub 2, if you're the seller or the buyer, especially if you're the seller, why would you try to hide things from someone? Because they have to pay you every month. Like this is one of the disconnects that I just couldn't figure out. I'm like, you knew all this stuff was here,
right? Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna let you over leverage this property, but I'm not gonna tell you all of the hurdles that you're gonna run into.
Yeah.
Now, if you put like a huge down payment and they were just gonna take the property back, then it's sad, but that would make more sense for that seller. But for them to let you over leverage it, not have really any skin in the game, and not tell you about the issues, that just seems counterproductive.
Right. I mean, the seller paid for my down payment. They paid for my closing costs. They paid for all of my repairs. Like it started looking good at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I fixed all the problems in the property for the
Mhm.
most part. I mean, there's some issues that need to be fixed still, but when you're over leveraged by that much, when you go and try to sell it, that's where the problem comes in. On top of the fact that 6 months in, this is, hurricane season comes in and we had some really bad storms down on the coast. Well, Charlotte got wrapped into that. My first insurance company dropped me because my
Wow.
roof was too old.
Ooh. Yeah.
So the roof is fine. I didn't need to fix the roof, but because of the age of the roof, I couldn't renew my policy and I'm looking around for insurance. My insurance went up $800 a year. Now, I mean, over the course of a year, that's margin gone. My taxes
Right.
went up more than I thought. So my PITI when I started on this house is like $2,600 a month.
Yep.
And then I had a $400 seller carry. So I'm like $3,000 a month into bills.
Right.
That's before utilities and any of the other expenses. By the time I sold it, which I sold it now, my PITI, not even talking about a seller carryback or anything, was 3,125.
Wow. And that's solely because insurance and taxes.
Insurance and taxes. Yep.
Wow. I mean, we all know insurance and taxes continually go up, but that's a huge jump in those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, so it's over $600 a month that I'm not expecting to have.
Yeah.
So when you start having problems with the property, and we're going to get into, like I said, we already talked about like tenants flushing stuff down the toilet they're not supposed to flush.
Mhm.
This is where it really started. Was this property sits and all the drainage comes out, your feces, everything that goes from the bathroom goes out into like this little like reserve, which has a grinder pump that pumps it back up to the street because it's lower than the sewer.
Right.
So we were having some backflow issues, and that's where it really cuts in. Before we get to that, I want to say like we went from Elko, which was my first management company, and we had some issues with that. They weren't marketing well, and I did go over to Padsplit the summer after I bought it. So this is summer of 2024. Padsplit market's great. My property is always full. Do I get the best people? Sometimes no, but I mean I've had mainly a full property the whole time, other than when problems happened. Also, Padsplit, when I took over, I added another bedroom, so I split one of my bedrooms into 7. So now we have a 7-bed, 5-bath. A couple of them are private. Like I said, this house is perfect for co-living. And that's what got me up to. Now I can fully occupied get my rents over what I projected. My last 3 months, even when I had one empty room, I was even between $6,000 to $6,800 income every month. That's gross. So my projections weren't wrong. It was just the marketing. But expenses coming in, fixing things, some tenant issues. Last winter, this is what was my breaking point. I had a backflow issue with that tank we just talked about. It flooded the whole lower level of the property. And that cost me, after lost rent, moving 3 people out because they couldn't live there anymore, the repairs that weren't covered under your insurance. Know your insurance policy.
Yes.
So I have a claim on my insurance that didn't get paid out. I was just a little bit over 40 grand, almost 50 grand in the hole. So a no money out of pocket strategy is great. But if you don't have reserves, you're screwed. And you're not going to find an investor to come in as a private money lender and lend on a deal that's already underwater. So luckily, I mean, I was in the position where I could pay for this. Not like I wanted to, but I could.
Right. I said we never want to throw good money after bad, but at the same time, you have to sometimes.
Right. So these are little things like this tank that I was talking about was like covered up, like legitimately covered up when I sold this property, or when the property was sold. I didn't even know it was there. And it's not a septic, so they didn't have to check septic on the non-disclosures.
Right.
It is technically sewer.
So it's city sewer, but it's basically got a holding tank inside the house, I guess.
It's a holding tank outside of the house where everything goes out to, and there's a grinder pump in there that pumps it back up. So when stuff that's not supposed to be flushed down the toilet gets flushed down the toilet and clogs up the grinder pump, your float gets burned up, the grinder pump stops working. You got to have the septic guys come in, suck out the tank, and fix the problem.
Right.
So this is where
cheap.
No, I mean that's not cheap. And And then when you have, feces coming up through the toilets on the lower level, that's when you have to move people out, get a professional cleaner in there, and that's not cheap either. Your Surf Pros, your Vodas, all those guys, they're not cheap, but you have to have them done.
Yeah, no, and they get away with their prices because most of the time they're charging insurance, which is part of the reason why our insurance prices are so darn high, is because companies like that can and do get away with it.
Yeah. But that was me out of pocket. So, all my repairs and tearing out tubs and stuff like that. So, it was an expensive rehab, but it had to be done. And on top of that, having 4 rooms empty out of 7, I'm not covering anymore. I'm hemorrhaging.
Yeah, you're deep in the hole and you're just hemorrhaging quickly.
So, this is just a quick topic on that too, is not only this case, but like when you're running a pad split, one bad member can screw up your whole entire house and lose 3 or 4 people, and now you're fixing that problem. So there's a lot of things where I do think co-living is a great strategy. I'm not even gonna lie, like it could work very well in the right areas.
100%.
But when you have a bad member in there, you have to get them out quick because you don't want to lose your good members because of that.
I had a very similar situation with just a bad person at one of my Cleveland group homes. It was one person away from being full, and brought one person in. Within 30 days, all of the good people left, and then ended up having to evict the bad person, which just pummeled everything. And from something 3 months prior that was like, okay, great, we're finally, the wheels are greased and everything's working the way it's supposed to. You bring one bad thing in and it just killed the entire thing. So that, unfortunately, I've lived also.
Yeah, and like I said, like what's nice about these strategies though, and I don't want to like make this whole video negative because this could work. There's so many things from the beginning that you have to do right. Like I did not do good at putting good house rules into place. So when you try to enact house rules later after people get used to something, it's really hard to enforce that.
Yes. Now, taking that the next step, did you have any like local boots on the ground, any person that you could rely on, or are you doing this remotely the whole time?
So yeah, realistically, I thought I had a pretty solid network in there going back. It just wasn't deep. So my handyman was awesome. Like he could do most of the things. He even connected me to other electricians, plumbers, and stuff like that. Unfortunately, like going out of state compared to what I have here. So another thing that a lot of people miss is you are not usually a priority to people that, out there. So, and they know that too, especially when something breaks. Like I got ripped off by contractors, I'm 100% sure, but I didn't have the option to wait and be picky and find somebody that when there's a problem, I had to get it fixed.
Right.
So, and the Charlotte market overall, rehabbing properties, cost to contractors is so much more expensive than Cleveland. So
for sure.
6 months after buying this house, this has 2 ACs and 2 hot water tanks. One of my hot water tanks is a 80-gallon hot water tank, electric hot water tank. That went out, and my second AC, which I didn't fix because I thought was good, went out in the same month. So I had an AC furnace replacement and an 80-gallon hot water tank in 1 month.
Yeah, that'll kick you a bit.
Can't go without AC in Charlotte. Need hot water. So 2 of the bathrooms are running off the hot water, other hot water tank. But that's stuff that I had to get done now. So I couldn't go, shopping around for contractors.
Right. Yeah. So at that point, it's just get it done and I'll figure the rest out later.
Right. So those are the things that I had some boots on the ground there, but my handyman can't do that kind of stuff. The people he sends me, they were good. They did it, but they're expensive. And I had a couple like my lawn care, I got my lawn care done for $30 every other week. That's great. So there is pieces that I was able to put together, and my people that I built a team with down there were good. It wasn't deep. So when I didn't have the speed.
Right.
So that's what I missed. I thought I had a way better team in Charlotte than I had. But like all these things is like you're practically running a hotel in a house if you think about it.
That's a great analogy.
So maybe a little longer term stay. You're kind of like the long term stay hotels, but that's what you're doing, getting in a house. So you're making this house a business. It's no longer this long term tenant you don't have to worry about or have to worry about less. You really have to be on top of this stuff. And when you're doing it out of state, it's hard. And I have done that before where I went down there and I've lived in my property for a couple of weeks to straighten things out, let people know what they expect. And that's when I was trying to put new house rules into place.
Right.
That's what I had to do. It did start to fix some things, but then it would work for a month and a half, and they know I'm not there. So it goes back to the old ways.
Right.
Did not have cameras on my common areas when I started either.
Oh, yeah, that's something that seems so, minuscule, but it is such a, I guess, a big thing that you really need, because otherwise you're just dealing with what he said, she said, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. Everybody think about this for a second. Put yourself in a state where you're living with 7 or 8 other people. There's going to be issues between people living there.
Yeah.
I have cameras on the outside, but the inside wasn't covered. So that way, and I did get pushback because if you don't do this from the beginning, you're going to have people living there. They're like, I don't want you watching me.
Right.
Well, we're going to go by the laws. And now this is common areas. Now, if this was a long-term rental, I can't go putting cameras on the inside of the house.
Right.
But as a co-living property, all the shared spaces are legally can have cameras. So I put cameras pointing, in the areas that I was mostly having problems. I wasn't going to put them in every single little nook and cranny of the house. But then we had issues with people moving cameras. And I'm like, I see you. I can see you do this. So that was kind of stuff that we had to. And we started finding people because there are a structured fine sheet of which you can find people for and amounts of money on Padsplit. And you could really set this up yourself. So if you're not doing this on Padsplit or another co-living platform, these are all things you can do. You just have to enact them up front. Try to start that way and be stern to your rules, because the more and more you give, the more and more they're going to take. And then the good people are going to start seeing the rules not being put in place, and they're either going to leave or do them themselves or get pissed off and complain.
Right.
So I will say beginning of 2025, so from 2025 January 1st till now, I did have an in-house property manager down there, which did free up so much of my time. So she's charging 8% on top. Or maybe it was 10, but it was 100% worth it. Mental power, time to fix my other things and keep going forward. It was a lifesaver and so much, so worth the money. So.
And finding the right property manager, especially out of area, it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, just like you said, that 8 or 10% probably bought back 5 to 10 hours a week just of your own time.
Yeah, at a minimum, probably we'll say 5 hours a week. And because there's weeks I didn't put a lot of time into it, but think about it this way too, is not just the hours it saved, the distractions in the middle while you're doing something important that you're switching your mind to go back to this and then have to go remember where you were on your other stuff.
Yeah.
So 100% was a lifesaver for this year. And I mean, if ever anybody's in the Charlotte market, my property manager is awesome. Like, just reach out to me. She also runs a co-living houses too and owns her own. So investor as well, doing that strategy.
That is huge right there. I mean, trying to get advice from somebody who's not doing what you're doing. I don't know, maybe I'm extremely biased, but how is somebody going to advise you on the correct things to do when they're not doing it themselves, or they don't even have a clue what it is?
Yeah. And I interviewed quite a few property managers. So, and I did find one that worked really well. And like, you kind of know when if you're in any form of real estate, if you're I will say, I think everybody should self-manage to start, because now you know what you're missing and you know what to look for in a property manager. But that's just my advice. I would think that, because I started that way too. When I started hiring out property management, I knew what I needed from them and what to look for.
Right. And I mean, I have a property management company here in Maryland, and a lot of times people will call me and I'm like, you don't need me to manage. If you want me to, absolutely. But I'm like, you live 5, 10, an hour away, manage it yourself. At least do it for a year. So whether you hire me or anybody else to do it, you're going to have that knowledge of what to do. Like, the people that I manage for are either out of state or they don't want to deal with it, but at least have that basic understanding of how it needs to work, so that when you do go out and hire somebody, you know the right questions to ask.
Yeah. I mean, how are you going to, because in property management, I mean, you as the landlord or owner of the property, you have to be able to manage your property manager now. How can you manage somebody that you don't know what they really are supposed to do?
Exactly. So I think from, the last couple of minutes of this conversation, the number one key is setting that foundation, perfectly. or as perfect as you can, because once you have the right foundation, like the house rules, if you'd have laid that foundation from the beginning, you would have saved, not necessarily all, but you'd have saved yourself a lot of those headaches from the problem tenants.
Yeah, and when these, even though I wouldn't have probably saved much money on the repairs, like because my property manager, she's not getting these crazy breaks on on deals on our services and
Right.
all of our professional, your HVAC, your plumbing, anybody electrical, but she's able to coordinate all that. Where I was shooting through all these different people, all these different contractors, trying to find good ones to work with and get people
Right.
in there. My handyman was my stable person that was able to fix all the small stuff and give me some advice on, referrals. But at the same time, that was so much time out of my pocket coordinating that. And I will say though, as much as having property management from the beginning would have been the right option on top of the platform I was using, I'm happy I didn't, and this is why. Also, why I was able to work out a deal with my seller carry situation to get out of that huge seller carryback that I had. I was calling her onto so many septic, plumbing, electricians, Roto-Rooter, that I found multiple services that were serviced on this house in the past that they were told to fix things that they did not fix. So I started building a case.
Yeah.
Roto-Rooter is called. Septic guys were called. There was an electrician I found that was called. There was like some faulty wiring that wasn't fixed, that breakers kept tripping over and over and over again. So I built this case. North Carolina is a little different than some other states. That's another thing I missed, is the non-disclosure laws. It's kind of a buyer beware state.
Yep.
Talked to multiple attorneys after building this case, and they're like, yeah, you really still don't have a good fight, but at the same time, we could fight it. Like it was likely gonna cost me more money to fight it than it was worth.
Yeah.
But presenting this to the seller, of the property, and showing him what I found and being like, hey, did you know about this? Knowing damn well he knew about it.
Right. Because he's the one that already called those people.
Yep. Even the city was told, there is sanitation issues in the back because there was feces coming out of this tank when it backed up and it was running into the backyard.
Yeah.
So these are things that I was able to talk to him through. And let's see, this started back in the last year when I tried to sell this property, but I was having issues with the previous owner, who now is technically my partner. He's a bank in second position with me.
Right.
These are some heated conversations. They weren't going well, but it got to the point where I'm like, hey, I have this, and this, and I just laid it out to him. We were back and forth, and unfortunately, I had to sell one of my good properties up here by where I live to not sell some other investments and pay this guy off. But I owe him 152 grand at the time. We ended up settling for 75.
Not bad.
So yes, could I have went after him and something may have came of it? It would have dragged on longer. I would have owned this property longer. There would have been more stress, more time, more money with attorneys. And we both got to the point where neither one of us were happy with each other. But he realized where he was. He realized what I knew. And we settled. So now I'm in a position where I actually have equity in the property, right?
Yes.
Now it's actually cash flowing. There's no second position. Now it's in the position where I can now sell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making money now when things don't break and, everything. But at the same time, I remembered when I went through only out of state property, not trying to grow out of state anymore. Still not going to have people that are on my side there. It's time to just get back to my market that I know. And we linked up because you invest in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Why would I? Yeah. Why would
I pushed out to outside markets.
Yeah.
And plenty of it's going well, but there's plenty of it that did not go well. And I've been through plenty of the struggles of that. But yeah, anytime you're branching out to a new market, it's hard. And I've been doing it now for 3 years, and I feel like I'm only 50% of the way there to really understanding the Cleveland market and what I'm doing with it. So it's a long road. Versus here in Maryland, I've been a realtor, an investor, a property manager, a contractor for 19 years. And, I know these areas like the back of my hand, and I know all the ins and outs, no different than you do in Cleveland. So, because of the networking and how we were able to connect, it's like, you got to have friends in the markets that you want to go. I mean, I got a call from my mastermind buddy here in Maryland. We run a meetup monthly. He had a Cleveland question. I'm like, call these two people, send them the number. I was like, I don't have the answer, but these two people might. So
Yeah.
the networking and the having the local connections it's intangible. Like you can't put a price tag on that outside of it's extremely valuable.
And extremely hard to build. It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it does not. Because you can meet somebody and one of our mutual acquaintances. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. You know, if I didn't go through that bad relationship, I wouldn't have the good relationships that I do in the Cleveland market. So, you know, and I'm still fighting through court battles with that thing, but you know, it sucks, but it's part of the game.
Yeah.
You know,
and I mean,
and it's building, it's growing, it's scaling, and it's not an easy road. It's gonna be bumpy. But if you just keep pushing through and, you know, fixing the mistakes and scaling and stacking on the knowledge from that, then you're gonna win. But
I want to hit on what you just said. What you just said is scaling and fixing. When you start running into battles out of state, it's, do you want to double down, scale, and fix, or do you want to cut your losses and go back to where you know?
Yeah.
Because scaling and fixing takes time, and is that where you want to focus your time? So that was the battle in my head. And then the last year, it's like, could I have doubled down and really put everything I had into this property and could have moved down there, you know, and really fixed it like long term, and that would have worked. Like I was in the position that I could have done that if I wanted to, but I realized that's not where I wanted to be. And like you in Cleveland, and I don't know about anybody else will probably say this out of state, when you're trying to build a team, like I was looking for a property in Charlotte for over a year. I was talking to people, building out a team before I ever bought this property.
Right.
But it's all talk at that point. So until you actually buy a property and start buying more properties, people aren't going to, you know, keep you in the back of your mind, their mind. And building out a team takes the fact that they see you and actually, you know, see you building there, not just one house, but you're buying more and more. And that's when you start getting people in your back pocket that actually will start prioritizing you.
Yeah.
So that's the hard battle that you're doing. You're doing that in Cleveland. You're actually building. I'm not going to do that in Charlotte. So
yeah, well, I say and I mean, my main reason for branching out to Cleveland, you know, prices here in Maryland are our dirt's really expensive. But the rental prices here versus there are about the same. So if I can get an entry, you know, half to a third less than I could here, then I can scale a lot faster there. So that was kind of like my main thing for pushing out to that. You know, not to say that I haven't earned my bumps and bruises along the way.
You've had some rough ones. Yeah.
Yeah. You know many of those stories firsthand. But it's starting to, you know, turn. You know, to quote Alex Hermosi, you either quit before you succeed or you succeed. Those are the only two outcomes. And I'm like, I'm too darn stubborn, so I'm gonna succeed.
Yeah.
You know, I'm cutting rid of the bad apples, just like that property we talked about earlier. I could have dumped more time and energy and money into it to maybe potentially turn a really good profit. I ended up walking away with making $7,500 in 3 years when I was supposed to make 80 grand. I could have got it to that, but did I want to stop everything else to go do that? No. So I just took my licks, lesson learned. I took a gamble on it. And my worst case scenario was $7,500. That's not bad. I saw the property once.
And I like your worst case scenario better than mine.
Oh, yes. Yes. You know, could I have bought it 3 years ago and then the tenants just dipped out on me? Of course they could have. But with the scenario that happened to me, my worst case scenario was I made $7,500 over 3 years. Okay.
Well, yeah.
And, you know, it's not a loss. It's not a great win, but it's not a loss. And now I just take that knowledge and go do it on the next one.
Yeah. Let's go to my worst case scenario now.
Yes. Let us.
So
give us a full breakdown on your exit from this and how you got out of it, and just, you know, all of the fun that it took to, I guess, stabilize and then get rid of.
Yeah. So worst case scenario, man, I lost 67 grand in this house.
Oh, and that's on top of getting that seller finance note, what, cut in half?
Well, that's even cutting that in half. That was to get me in the position where I could sell. And I'll tell you how that breaks
That's
down.
what I'm saying. You'd have been, what, $75,000 more in the hole if you didn't get that worked out, right?
I wouldn't have sold it. I would have just roughed it out at that point. Like,
okay.
I wouldn't have sold. I would have kept just putting time and money into it because I wasn't going to go let it hurt my credit. That's the biggest thing, man. Like, first of all, I mean, whether the agreement and the sale was good or bad,
right.
Above board, either way, I did sign that paper that says I owe you this much money.
Right.
Like, never defaulted on a property. So, if there was any other reason to, it would have been, but we worked something out. Right. Just that got me in the position too. But it's crazy because if you look at my gross numbers, it looks like I killed it. Like, even up to this point, I made 51 grand on the house gross this year. I'm
nice.
negative 9 grand this year. Like, just because you have a nice gross number, and I see a lot of these people post Padsplit gross numbers off their screen on their dashboard. I'm like, wonder what you're putting into that house.
Yeah, and so you can't spend gross dollars; you can spend net dollars.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of the repairs and stuff along the way, but 9 grand loss this year, 27 grand loss last year, about roughly. And yes, I bought equity into my house to get rid of the seller carryback, but even then, I still gave 30 grand up that I'm never going to see again outside of that 75 grand. Just it's going to be a loss. Right. And I only have them carrying back 45. So now I'm a bank in second position.
Right.
So anyways, I sold this property sub 2. I mean, I've bought sub 2, bought creative. Now I'm selling creative because there was multiple reasons for that. I would have had to take a way bigger price hit if I was going to sell it on the market.
Right.
Even after I put all these repairs into it, which I did put a good amount of money into it. Now, all your the bones of the house, they're all working great. Now it's just updating things that were, destroyed by some members, flooring, paint, stuff like that. It's an operational house and somebody taking it over now it's fully occupied. 7 bedrooms, all occupied, generating nice. When fully occupied, just shy of 7 grand a month.
That's pretty amazing. So essentially, what you're saying is you got it to the point where it would make whoever that end buyer was, it would make them money. So you got to go through all of the
bumps.
We'll call it the WTF moments.
Yep.
And so you got it past all of those and now pitched it to somebody that can actually make money off of it. Pretty good. So if you'd have just held on to this thing, you'd have been able to recoup probably, a good chunk of that, right?
Yeah. Now I have about $5,200 to $5,400 in bills in any given month now because of all the expenses raising, utilities, all that, and averaging out repairs. Now, and I'm not talking even about the big repairs, just your average repairs that need to happen because of overuse of the property. So as much as that looks great, when you have one room vacant the whole month, you're a little skinny. Now, I did have plenty of people that were looking to buy this and take this over and would have taken over the sub 2 and some of them would have given me my whole entire carryback. But the problem was these people are either out of state or have never done the strategy before. I am not going to let you take over my mortgage when I know what it takes to do this and you've never done this before. Right. Even if you live in that area. I mean, after doing it, and what's crazy is, Chris, I went through house hacking 3 times. That's how I started in real estate. That's how I built my wealth. That's how I actually figured a lot of this out. When you're doing it when you live in the property, I knew there was going to be some changes, but man, the drastic changes from living there to not living there. And
it's big.
Even proved that out when I went to live at this property, because when I go to live there for a couple of weeks, things change. I put, lay down the ground rules, posting rules all over the freaking house, like their kids.
Yes.
And it does work for a little bit, but it doesn't stick.
Great analogy, but it's sad to say that you have to treat, grown adults like kids. Yeah. I get it, and I've been there myself, so I understand that one completely.
So when it came to selling, and this is a connection that I made, honestly, when I was just feeling out selling last summer, not even going to sell, just feeling out what it would look like. This person that I sold to, we've had our bumps down the road because this has been a heck of a closing, but she's doing this. She's doing pad splits down there. She's actually very vocal in the area and speaking. Like she's proven that she knows what she's doing. So now I sell it to somebody that, yes, I know I'm going to take $30,000 cut off of that loan that I just paid off in second.
Right.
Still getting 45 grand of that back down the road. With me being now the bank in second, I sell sub two hybrided out of this deal.
Okay.
So Morby in, hybrid out.
Okay.
So like we kind of explained the seller carryback.
Probably one of the most creative structures throughout the entire process that exists in the market.
Right. So we already talked about,
we picked off like 3/4 of the creative boxes all in one deal.
All in one deal. So we already talked about the seller carryback. Now, essentially, I did it out, but not only did the seller carryback out, I sub-2'd my mortgage. So subject to the existing mortgage. So they just take over my mortgage. And I am now the bank in second position.
Right.
So I just pretty much flipped what I did in out.
Right. So now you're kind of, instead of being the owner and the operator, now you're just the bank.
Yeah. And we set up a servicing company. This is something I definitely recommend with anybody selling subject to for multiple reasons. I mean, you're having somebody essentially be a middleman to make sure that mortgage is paid. And if it's not, they're helping you with that. Second, whether like a lot of people sell subject to and the house is in their name. So this helps show that debt's being serviced when you go to buy another property.
Okay.
So, I mean, a lot of, eventually some people do get in the position, they're in a rough spot where they have to sell subject to. That's where a lot of the people that sell subject to are. Now, this is something that does help you when you go to try to buy again, because you still do have debt in your name, which is going to hurt your debt to income ratio. But either way, so I know I'm going to take a hit down the road. Yes, could I have stuck through this now that I've fixed a couple of the problems? Now, I will say there's still some bad members in there that she's going to have to come in and she is going to remove, and she's going to have to go through the bumps and bruises and honestly backtrack a little bit on a gross income, because turnover is also huge here. And because when you have some bad people there, turnover is high. So even when I'm grossing something, if I'm placing a member, now I'm paying first 10 days of their stay every time I put a new member in this property with Padsplit. So turnover will kill you. So my gross numbers look great. But when Padsplit's going to take my first 10 days of every stay, it really makes a big difference, especially when you're charging, 200 to 250 a week for rent.
Right.
So she still does have some things to fix, and she's going to update some of the furniture and the painting and make it a better presentable house. And I'm not going to lie, it got a lot worse since I bought it, and I was not going to dump more money into it. So I've just been skating by knowing I am putting it on, and I'm going to say this, and I really didn't want to admit it, but I put a product out there where it is now that I don't want to put my name on.
Right.
So I'm giving somebody a good position and a good structure so that they can, have the leeway to fix it, because I'm not taking payments on that 45 grand for a year. I'm no payments for a year so that they have just that first position mortgage.
Right.
So they can put the extra money into the property.
Right. Which then just builds the equity in the property, makes the asset better, makes it more performable, I guess. So yeah.
And
again, that was money you were looking at losing anyway. So you're taking more of a risk on it, but at the same time, they're improving the property. Now, as long as they actually do improve the property, then that's, you're working in the right direction.
Right. And that is the risk that I have to take. But it's one of those things when, I'm selling to someone that has a track record that when you start to look at your seller, when you're looking to sell to somebody creative, I'm looking at track record and I'm looking at what they've built, because a good investor does not want to screw up that track record. It's not just about the property. They don't want to screw up what they've built and their persona, their brand. Yeah. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, we've talked about, you look at any of these people that are building a brand. I'm not saying they always do the safest investments, but at the same time, they're not trying to screw things up because they've built that, that brand and that network. So, like I said, I could have sold to many people. I probably could have gotten better deals. But I knew I was taking on more risk. This is a safer deal, in my opinion. I have somebody that's going to run it, that can cut down on the costs that I couldn't cut down on. They're managing it. So they have that gap where I feel pretty safe in this, and I can sleep at night knowing that mortgage is still tied to me. Right. But I'm giving them the leeway to fix the problems that I wasn't willing to fix. And that straight up is like, I knew I was not willing to dump more money and time into this property. Right. That's crazy thinking I'll take a 70 grand loss to go focus and make that back where I know.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
So, I mean, realistically, I know we like kind of just briefly covered this. Like, if anybody had questions, like, there's so many intricate things that happen throughout this deal that it would take us 4 hours to talk about. There's no point in going through all that.
Yeah, easily. So if you have questions on anything, drop them down in the comments and we will, certainly help you answer any of those things. But this, I would say we probably covered the top 10%.
If even.
Kind of like an iceberg. We're only
Yeah.
seeing this much. We only covered about this much today. There is tons of more things that could go right, could go wrong. And, again, like you said, we'd be here for another 4 hours if we divested into each and every one of those.
And I have videos on nearly everything on my channel. Like, I did a lot of content on co-living because as I went through all this, I figured out so many things I did wrong, talked to people that were doing it right, had them on my channel. We went through how to start, how to finish the whole entire, co-living process, and just learn from my mistakes, talk to people that are doing it right. Go back and look at those videos. They're all there, evicting Padsplit members, how to send people to collections, that kind of stuff. You want to finish off? I'll tell one really good tenant story horror.
Yeah.
All right. So I had somebody that was there for a while, tried to be house dad, which at first, and this is where you have to really start. You're like, this is a people business, right?
Oh, yes.
So you have to really be good at reading people and reading through the bullshit. I had somebody that when he moved in, I really thought this is a good person. Like, I'm like, okay, he's cleaning up the house. I'm watching on the cameras. He's all putting on a show, I find out. But he did clean up my house really well. Clean the common areas, complained about people that were a mess.
I mean, on paper, that looks great.
Yeah, it did start great. So I'm communicating with him, and I probably gave too much leeway, and then he's starting to badmouth other members. Some people that have been in there since the beginning. I have 2 people in that house that have been in there from my very first members.
Wow.
And they stayed. One is likely going to go. The other one has been like, I'm like, I want 7 of these people. Like, even when they were late on rent, they communicated, they made a plan, we agreed on it, and they paid on that plan. I'm like, I want all of you.
Yeah, you can't beat that. And as a landlord, you want them to just, and I tell my tenants the same thing. Work with me and I'll work with you.
Yeah.
We're in this together. We're, I'm the landlord, you're the tenant, but we're partners.
Yep.
So let's have a good open line of communication, and that's going to make your life and my life a whole lot better.
And she's way under market. And I left her there because I know, like, I could be pushing that way higher. I'm like probably $40 a week under market.
I have a tenant like that on the long term that I'm $500 below market.
Yeah.
But she's been my tenant for 12 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Turnover
Sweet old
kills.
lady. I was like, I'm only going to raise your rent if the condo fees go up or the taxes go up.
Yep.
Or insurance or whatever. Outside of that, and I raise it like $25 a year.
So you still eat some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I'm $500 a month below market on that.
Yeah. So going back to this, good member, keep it under market. She's there, no turnover. That's a win. This guy, bad mouthing her and other people in the house. And there's rating systems on Padsplit and everything. Starting to watch the cameras a little more. He gets behind on rent. I let him get too far behind. That's when I really started to make some of the strategies and the videos that I cover on how far below or how far late I let somebody get before I actually just say, no, we're done. This was the person that made me put those rules into place. But he moved somebody in, kept saying he didn't move somebody in. I'm like, I'm watching you on the cameras, man. I know you moved somebody in. He broke into somebody's room that when they moved out and stole his Xbox. Walked out the door with it when he left. And this person always left his door open. Another thing, I don't know somebody would leave their door open when you're living with 6 other people that you don't know.
I don't know.
Anyways, so stole the Xbox, easily able to see it, moved out with the person that he moved in after I fined him multiple times for having somebody stay, because there's guest fees if you have guests staying when you're not supposed to. But he ended up racking up now $1,800 of what I owe him. Did a couple things to the property when he left. Room was trashed when he left. Stole something. Police reports. And that's just like one crazy story. Like this is the stuff that you will see in co-living, because you're gonna run into bad apples. There's good ones, there's bad ones, but his whole like persona was trying to be house dad. I'm helping you. I'm on your side as I'm not paying rent and bad mouthing all the people that have been there. And I will say he did clean. Like I said, he did, but his room wasn't clean.
Right.
Common areas are clean. His room was a mess.
That's strange.
Because he was trying to show me that he was the one that was trying to fix my house and keep it in order.
Right.
And I mean, I caught on to the games.
He was working you.
Yeah, and I caught on the games, and actually that was where I actually did live there for a couple weeks, and I realized who he was and what he was doing, and I asked him to leave. It took, and this is where I had to start an eviction process. He was there for 2 weeks after I told him he had to leave. Posted eviction on his door. That's when it finally got the I'm out. He left, so we didn't actually have to go through it, but I would have had to go through with an eviction, and that would have been very costly on top of what he owes.
Right.
So, and I sent him into collections. But I send every single member to collections. I give them a chance to pay back. Watch my videos on how I did that. Some pay back, some don't. But I give them a chance first, and then I send them to collections. If not, even if it's going to cost me $100 to send them to collections, I'm going to send them to collections and live up to what I said. I'm like, I gave you your chance to pay this back or make a payment plan with me, and you didn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go bring them to small claims court and everything like that. I'm not going down to Charlotte to represent myself in court, but I will send you to collections.
I take that a step further, and if it's under $1,000, I'm not even going to bother sending you to collections. I'm just going to send you a 1099-C.
Okay.
Debt forgiveness. It's for me, it's less effort, basically. Not that calling and sending somebody to collections is a lot of work, but for me, I send one email to my bookkeepers and my CPA. I'm like, hey, I need a 1099-C for this person. Here's their details. Here's the amount. And then I'm done. Now, for those who don't know what a 1099-C is, it's debt forgiveness. So if I know I'm not getting money out of somebody, I'll send them that 1099-C. And now, no, I'm never going to see that money, but I now get essentially a credit on my taxes. And now they get charged at that as income. So instead of having me or a debt collector up their tail, they're going to have the IRS up their tail. For me, that's a better solution.
I do like that.
In certain scenarios.
Yeah.
The tenant that just bailed on me recently, they're into me for like $4,000. I'm not going out to the middle of nowhere, Ohio to go through all of those processes and try to find them.
Yeah.
I'm just going to send them a 1099-Z and move on with my life.
No, I could probably, I'm running through this in my head. I could probably turn these debt collections into 1099-Cs.
Oh, for sure.
So I could do that.
Anybody that doesn't pay up within, just say 6 months.
Yeah.
Just send them the 1099-C.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to send it to them. You just have to physically file it on your own, and then you let the IRS handle it.
Yeah, that could actually help me this year.
It's helped me tremendously over the last couple of years. Because I know you and I've talked about it before, but when I first got heavy into investing, I was a private lender. I learned the very hard way that is not a good niche for me.
I like that niche. Still doing that.
Yeah, I got out of it and ran for the hills, and it's like, I'm just going to buy my own properties and take my own money into it, versus lending my money out on somebody else's deal. And again, all fingers and thumbs. Yes, I got taken advantage of, but I should have done more due diligence on my own. So it's all my fault. But I'd rather just, looking back on it, I'm like, if I'd have just even if I'd have bought an overpriced deal and been over leveraged on something, I still would have been better off. Now I'm making everything back. It's just taking me, 2 to 3 times as long to recoup versus, if I'd have bought my own deal, then I'd have a lot more benefits off of it. Or if I just let that money sit in the bank, I'd have lost plenty on inflation, but it'd still be sitting there.
Oh man, this could be a whole other video. I'd love to go back and forth with you on this topic because I want to keep pushing toward private money lending. So this would be a good back and forth on why and why not.
Well, we're going to have to schedule that one, and we will do a whole nother video on the pros and cons of private lending. Yeah, I think that would be a good one. I think we could bring some really good value.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Chris, I think we probably covered what we need to on this one, huh?
Yeah, I think we're good, bro.